To Senator Steele-John's point around transparency, it wasn't just to the disability community that those opposite promised transparency. They promised to the Australian people transparency. Yet as soon as they got their backsides on those government benches, the clouds came in, the opacity increased, the curtains came down. And what we now learn in a number of areas, not even just the NDIS, but also we understand around the religious discrimination bill, we see with the fuel emissions standards, that negotiations are happening in secret, consultations are happening in secret, and in some instances NDAs are being forced to be signed by those that are consulted with. This is a government petrified of transparency. But where there is such an issue and this lack of transparency and disdain that this government is showing to the Senate by refusing to release these documents it has been told it must do, is the fact that they have actually baked the savings into the budget. So they are saying there will be an 8% cap of growth, and they have baked those savings into the budget. In fact, it's now looking in excess of $60 billion. That is a big black hole, because what we do know about the NDIS growth at the moment is it is tracking around 15%. So we are almost double what those opposite have put in their budget. Now, this is a serious issue. This is $60 billion that's going to have to be found somewhere. Now, this is a demand-driven scheme, so there's two ways you make savings. You cut participants or you cut the average value of their plans. That's it. But there are other efficiencies that could be made. And yet those opposite, this alleged consultation, well, I don't know who they're doing it with, because one of the issues we've got is with the price guide. No one's come to talk to me about the price guide. No one's come and talked to the NDIS Joint Standing Commission about the price guide. But we know that those opposite, they have a little slogan, same job, same pay. They love that, same job, same pay, except if you're getting paid by the taxpayer. Because if you're with DVA or you're with aged care as a provider, you earn less than if you're charging an NDIS participant, because NDIS participants, the price guide set by the board, it's at the highest level, higher than anywhere else. So therefore businesses are charging more than if someone is a veteran, more than if they have a health care, more than if they're aged care participant, or more if they're just a general member of the public. And I think what's absolutely abhorred me this weekend while I had a look, and Instagram has very interesting algorithms at how you get things. I've been getting all of these NDIS advertisements on my Instagram and things suggested for me to follow. And it was particularly around supported independent living, and this is an area that is ripe for reform. Lots of people talk about the number of participants with autism. Autism is about 5% of the NDIS spend. The biggest part of the NDIS spend is in supported independent living. And all of these ads and suggestions for me to follow on Instagram were advertisements to invest in housing for supported independent living. And the rates of return that these organisations were promising were wild. We're talking 25, 35 rate of return annually on these properties that you invest in to go into supported independent living, because it's funded by the NDIS. We know that there are providers that are absolutely rorting this system, completely and utterly rorting this system. But guess who a lot of them are? They're the old block-funded guys. They're the guys whose all their workers are members of the union. And guess where everything that Mr Shorten's looking at? He's attacking unregistered providers. Unregistered providers doesn't mean unskilled, doesn't mean unqualified. It just means that they might be a sole provider. They might be a small business and can't afford the audit costs imposed on them by the NDIA. These are not unskilled. We do need to look at perhaps a scalability of registration. Why not a website where they put their name, their ABN, what skills they've got, their qualifications, put their working with children and police checks, without requiring the onerous NDIA. But these are all savings that could be made, because the CEO actually told us in estimates that the least amount of fraud occurs within self-managed participants. You know why that is? Because the participants work directly and quite often with a sole provider who provides bespoke services. You don't end up with whatever worker these big old block funders send you each week without any goal provision being factored into when they're working for you. Many of these guys offer nothing but glorified babysitting services. It is not the intent of the scheme. But these are not conversations that we can have, because Mr Shorten's hiding. Mr Shorten won't talk to those in the sector, and this lot are baking in $60 billion black hole that we're all going to have to pay for.